Hey planners, it's Teo Shantae Plans and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to be teaching a planner technique on creating your own bottom washi. I have a plan with me video where I showed how I created this particular spread, and in that video the bottom washi looks completely different than it does here, and that's because after I was finished doing the spread I was looking back at it and realized it looked a little bit empty to me and it felt like it needed just a little bit something more. And so I did something I very rarely do, because I usually once I've finished a spread I'm done and ready to move on to my next one, but this one just kept grabbing my attention because the bottom washi just felt so unfinished to me. And so I sat down, added in some florals, the butterflies, and a foiled washi strip, and just finished off what was happening in the bottom washi section. And I was really happy with how it came out, but then also sad that it wasn't on my YouTube channel. And it got me to thinking, because I've been wanting to teach some planning techniques, and I used to teach planning classes through Patreon, and that's unfortunately not something I have time for anymore, but this presented an opportunity for me to do something that I think could be helpful both to beginning planners and to people who are just wanting to learn new techniques, where I take some of my favorite techniques throughout spreads that I've done and just sort of break them down step by step and really go over it with you all and share my thought process, why I think this works, what goes into placement skill, and everything else that runs through my brain when I'm doing certain techniques in my planner. So I want to share that with you all. So what I'm going to do is recreate what's happening in this bottom washi here, and I'm going to do 2 examples in this video. I want to sort of recreate exactly what I did here, and then do another one, same concept, just using different stickers to show you how you can put a different variation or spin on it if you would like to. And so first things first, let's go through the different types of stickers that you would need to pull off something like this. And most kits will come with bottom washi, and so you'll already have bottom washi in your kit depending on the kit that you're using. Sometimes you love everything about the bottom washi that comes in a kit, sometimes you don't, you want to make your own. Sometimes you purchase a kit in an oops sale or something like that and it doesn't have bottom washi. Sometimes kits are mini kits and they don't have bottom washi, or it's formatted for a different style of planner than what you have. There are a lot of reasons in which you might be making your own bottom washi, or you may be using a kit across 2 different weeks, and you used up the bottom washi the first time you used it, but you're moving on to utilizing the rest of your leftovers from that sticker kit, and being able to create your own bottom washi gives you a great base to your spread, which is the situation here. I had already used this kit once, and this spread was made up of leftover stickers, and so being able to create my own bottom washi was essential to creating a full spread. So the stickers I want to start off with, these are the floral washi trims for Paper Trail Plans. I first got into these because they had this solid colored washi strips on them, which I really love about that. I also love, of course, the floral cut, and which is another great way to put together your own bottom washi. If you have one of these, you can totally take that, and if it matches the spread you're doing, you are golden, because it's essentially everything you need to make your own bottom washi. And then they started releasing these where it's just the solid colored strips in various widths, which these are super nice too. So having anything like this in your collection is really going to be helpful if you're trying to create your own bottom washi. And for me, because I also do a lot of freeform planning and sort of doing my own things in various spreads, it's nice to have stickers like these in my collection. But I would definitely recommend having some just solid colored washi strips that allows you to pull in florals that match with the kit that you're already using, and things like that. Then any of this type of washi is going to be helpful for your top strip. And I wanted to just show different examples of washi. And essentially what you're looking for here is height. You want it to be something that's like bold and statement making, whereas, for example, this isn't going to make as much of a statement on the page. They're both washi length stickers and both washi trim stickers, but this one isn't going to be as eye-grabbing as something that's got a lot more height and depth and more happening in terms of like your top strip, if you're wanting to go the foiled route for your top strip, which is what we're going to be doing an example of in this So those two elements, that top foil strip and then the bottom solid colorful strip, they're going to make up your background. And we're going to break this down into 3 steps. So we're going to have our background, focal point, and supporting images. And so in this instance, our background is the solid colorful foil, the foil top strip. Our focal point is the florals, and the supporting images are the butterflies. And so this, and I like this so much because I feel like this is so beginner friendly and such a great place to start, because you could also be bringing in clip art that you could use as your focal point. You can do a lot of things when you're creating your own bottom washi, but I feel like this was such a good place to start because I feel like this is a very beginner friendly, super easy type of bottom washi that anyone could recreate. So I have some leftover florals from a kit that I used last year. These are the Evermore florals from Two Little Bees. And then I have more of the butterfly stickers that I use. So I'm going to go ahead and let's flip to an empty page here. And we are just going to go ahead and let's recreate this bottom washi. So I'm going to use just the bottom strip from this one. This is the Blush Pink Floral Washi Trim from Paper Trail Plans, and I felt like this particular shade was going to complement these florals really well. It kind of picks up on that blushy tone that's happening inside of those florals, and I'm just gonna go ahead and place this down. And fun fact, I'm in a B6 planner. It was like a whole thing for me switching from an A5 wide planner to a B6 planner. It has totally changed my planning style and everything about the way that I plan these days. It's been one of the best changes I've made for my planning for myself personally. But in doing so, I've made the decision to continue using A5 wide kits. And so I trimmed down a lot of my stickers, which is totally fine for me. I was trimming down stickers long before I switched to a B6, or like cutting up stickers, I guess I should say. So I think I've always kind of been used to pulling out my scissors and X-Acto knife when it comes to planning. So this doesn't feel odd or weird or foreign to me in the slightest bit. So I'm putting down the bottom washi, and I'm just going to line up this top strip on top. One of the things that I would definitely want to point out here, there's a very, very thin outline of the transparent matte paper, very thin outline of the transparent matte paper around, sort of bordering around this image, even along the bottom. And so you have this super tiny gap between where the bottom line of the foil stops, but you still have that tiny bit of the border of the transparent matte paper. And that's gonna vary just depending on the shop and how they created the sticker and how they put it together. And so for that, so if that bothers you, you can go ahead and place down your foil strip first, and then put the colorful strip where it's on top of the foil, lined up right up against the bottom of where that foil comes in. I'm gonna go ahead and just pull in a thin strip washi to cover up that empty space in between where these two meet, and that's the only reason I'm not making that adjustment. If I had thought about it the first time I did it, I probably would have just tucked the foil underneath the colorful one, but since I didn't the first time and I'm wanting to just recreate this for this first example that I'm doing for you all, I'm just going to do it exactly the same way that I did before. Which I'll be honest, I really like the end result, and I think it's one of the things that I enjoy so much about planning when I step out and do things that are kind of unique or different. Anytime I'm sort of pushed outside the box or have to find a solution or some sort of creative way to solve a problem, and in a scenario in which I have a kit with leftovers but I don't have everything I need to make this spread, it puts me in a position where it's like, okay, now I have a problem that I need to solve, and in solving it I'm able to come up with a creative solution that takes me somewhere I hadn't planned to go with that spread and create something really amazing. So I have my floral. In choosing the floral that I want to use one that's a circular bunch styled floral for this, and I'm gonna gravitate towards two different styles of florals for this. I want one that gives me more of a circle look. And it's so funny, I think it was the very first planner class I ever taught. I did it on my Instagram live, and it's still saved there. But I broke down sort of the way that I see stickers, because my brain interprets everything as shapes when I'm looking at stickers. It's just the way my brain analyzes them. And so everything is either squares, circles, lines, curves. It all comes down to very simple shapes. And in doing that, it helps me understand how I want to layer things, because certain things bring balance to others, right? So if you have a square and you pair it with a circle, that combination is going to be really complementary. If you have something that's giving you a straight line, if you have something that has a curved line to it, curved lines give visual movement, straight lines give structure and balance. And the combination of the two things is what creates visual interest. I don't want to get myself off track and going into all of that in this moment, but I definitely recommend that if you're wanting kind of just to go over the basics of layering. I do have a layering basics class for free that wasn't a part of my Patreon. It was just on my Instagram that you can check out if you're wanting just a little bit more details on something like that. But the first thing I want to do is place some florals in the corners. And what that's going to create is, by putting the focal points on the sides, and then I want to put one in the center as well. But putting it to the side, I don't want to try to capture all of this floral in the side of here, and I don't want any of this bottom washi color sticking out from behind the floral. If I did that, if I were to place just one floral here, it would be totally different style, and you could totally make this work. I would make this my focal point. Everything else would be secondary. I would not do another large circular floral on the other side. And I personally don't love it centered. You can do that. There's no wrong way to do this. For me, visually, as I'm looking at this line, you can split this up into 3 sections, which is so great because you've got your columns here. But visually, the concept of having 3 sections is, you've got your ends, you've got your center. And if you want to place this in a way where it's sitting sort of off center, that makes an interesting and dynamic focal point because it pulls the eye to this. And so if you decide to do something like that, what you want to make sure you don't do is put anything else down here that's going to compete with that being your focal point. But again, we're repeating what we did for the last one. Oh, okay. And so I'm just wanting to place this down. And this is a little bit larger floral than I used in the last one. Maybe I'll size down just a bit. Oh, which is making me kind of sad. I was really liking that floral. But again, I have a circular shaped floral here. And this is essentially that same exact bunch, just scaled down, just great. Because that was definitely the shape that I wanted. And I just want to put this far over to the side. And I'm going to use my ruler and craft knife and just cut off the excess that I don't need. And that is going to give me the look that I'm going for. And so one of the things you absolutely do not have to do, I don't know why it is, I personally just like this. I have this thing about extending the length of my bottom washi. Your bottom washi can line up perfectly with your columns. I don't know what it is about me. For some reason, I like extending it just past that line. So that's a personal preference, and I am not teaching that. That is not something you have to do to make this look right. That is honestly just a random personal quirk of mine. And so I am not offering that up as something that is required to make this work. And so by placing this down extremely off to the side and then cutting it flush with that colorful bottom washi strip, it now meshes the florals into what's happening with that strip. And so that was what I wanted to do. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that technique on the other side so that we can have the same thing happening, where we have the florals and it becomes a part of the design of the bottom washi and something that's just looking really, really beautiful. So let's go ahead and put that down. And again, we've got it going off the edge, and that's important because I want to trim down those sides, have them be completely like straight edged on both sides so that it becomes a part of the bottom washi and not simply a sticker that's sitting on top of your bottom washi. And the visual impact of that is just going to be so great. Okay, so now for my center floral, rather than having another floral that's more circular in shape, I want to pull out one that is more of a line, right? So this one, it's more long in width, gives more of a line appearance. And to even further emphasize that, I'm going to cut it in half. And I want to cut this in half from the longest point to the longest point. And those 2 points are sort of drawing my line for me. And so I'm going to go from one end to the other. And that's how I'm just going to splice this in half. One of the things that's really common in a lot of kits these days are date cover trim topper style florals, and so a lot of times you'll get florals where they are already split in half for you. It does the work for you. You've already got what you need and it just looks amazing. And so you can go ahead and place this right up against the top of that line. Alternatively, you could flip it and place it at the bottom. And I want to again stress placement on this because it's going to be a factor, right? We already have 2 florals that are going off on each end. What I personally don't love as much is trying to hit this floral dead center. I think it makes a much more interesting visual impact if it's just off to the side, just a bit. So if you're putting it at the bottom, just off to the side this way, or just off to the side this way, amazing. Same thing if you're going to flip it upside down and do it top down, where the florals are lined up at the top and facing down. Again, just off to one side or the other, I think is a better visual impact than placing it dead center. That's a personal preference. It's not something that's like, oh, well, hard, fast rule, because for anyone who's taken any one of my Patreon classes, they know I would always start my classes by saying there are no rules in planning. Planning is about having fun and being creative, and rules can be stifling in a creative environment. And so we do not want to do anything that makes people feel like there are rules or things that they can't do when they're being creative. I really want to put another floral here. This is just like, it's making me want to. I like the idea of having just a really, really slim floral here, like not a big one. I don't know, maybe that might be too much. We'll see. And then what I want to do is, I now have my focal points. The florals are stealing the show. They're having their moment. They look incredible. Here's what I should have done before I put down my florals. And the funny thing is, I'm literally recreating something I already did. So I knew if this was going to hit me. I didn't put down my thin washi strip. And we'll go over why I should have put that down already in just a second. But let's go ahead and put down my butterflies. These are amazing. These are the butterfly trail deco sampler from Paper Trail Plans, and I just really enjoy the trails coming out from behind them. I think this makes a really good sort of secondary or supporting image to the florals because it brings in foil, which you've already got color happening with your florals. You could bring in leaves that are foiled or any type of flourish or accents like that, where you could pull in something like this and accent around it. You could pull in clusters, you could add in leaves, you could add in other types of florals. You have a lot of options when it comes to pulling in sort of a supportive decorative image, but in doing so, you're going to make the whole thing much more rich, dynamic, and layered, and make it a lot more visually appealing. And I have opted to go with these butterflies. So I want to get one that is super, super cute. Oh my goodness. And I just want to use this and connect these 2 florals here. with this butterfly and his trail, and I like visually what's happening there. It's super, super nice. Just sometimes visual movement is a little bit hard to explain, but there are certain things that you have that large floral there, and then the trail leading your eye down to the smaller floral and connected by that butterfly. The visual effect of that is just so engaging, and it's one of those things that we don't notice consciously, but when we see it happen on the page, we know, like, you know the difference. It's like it's not one of those things that you always are conscious of, but when it's done right, you know it. And so this could totally be tucked under these florals, because that sort of trail is pretty long. Which, yeah, and this is why I say, because because I've got to lift this floral up just a bit anyways, because I need to tuck my my thin washi strip underneath it. But a little bit of foresight wouldn't have killed me, but that's okay, because we don't always have foresight when we're planning. I certainly didn't when I was doing my first one. I ended up lifting up my florals in that one as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and lift up this side too, because the next thing I'm going to do just to finish this off is to add in that thin foiled washi strip. So I just need these lifted up, because I definitely want those ends tucked in. Please don't rip your floral. Hey, I need you to behave. No ripping, no ripping, no ripping. There we go. All right, I'm done lifting this one, because the sticker is not enjoying being lifted up in the slightest. And let's see if I have like a small individual butterfly, and I like this because we already have so much going on with the trails with the other ones. I think just having that little butterfly there with no additional trails, we've got a lot already happening visually. We've created the visual impact that we want to have. Now let's just go ahead and finish this off. And the reason I want to finish this off is, again, because we've got that little gap between the foil and the colorful strip. If I had tucked that underneath the colorful strip, I wouldn't necessarily need this particular step. But since I did not, and since I am recreating what I did exactly the first time, which the first time I didn't cover up that gap, so I just wanted to do it the exact same way. And as we get to here, I'm just going to trim this short, because I know that'll be the part that I just need to tuck under that floral, and I'm going to save the rest of the sticker because I will use it later on. This is adorable, so I'm just going to stick this back on my sticker sheet, which is why I always end up with like pieces on my my washi trim sticker sheets. This is like I'm always cutting something. And so there we go. Finished that off, and we've gone ahead and created our own bottom washi. It's super beautiful, visually dynamic, doesn't take a long time to do. And if you were using leftover stickers to create a second spread in your planner, you could create your own bottom washi that would just look absolutely amazing, and you would love the way that it looked in your spread. So let's do one more example, and we're going to play up those same techniques, creating a background, focal point, and supporting images. And we're just going to do it using some different stickers just so we can see this one more time and just do it with a different style. So let's go ahead and grab another one of those, the other washi strip, because I'm going to use the same florals. I'm going to go ahead and just use those again, because those are the florals that I pulled out for this class, for this example. And once again, I'm going to put down my washi strip work so that it's extended just past the lines. And again, that is not a technique that I am teaching. It's just personal quirk. So that one's free. You can take it or leave it. And this is so much fun for me. I really enjoy and love teaching planner classes, and this is really interesting because when I was doing it on Patreon, I was doing it live, and so I was able to interact immediately, ask and answer questions, and that's not something, unfortunately, it's not something I'm able to do at the moment, just because my schedule just, it does not have the leeway or room for that at the moment. So we have some different options here, and I want to play around and see what it is I'm liking, right? So I have this, and this is in rose gold, which you totally use rose gold with these florals. They work with both gold and rose gold. And so this has got a really nice thick lace trim sticker. And I'm wondering if I want the lace, and actually I wonder if I want this thinner one. This I like, and it's interesting because it's a thin washi, but it's not as thin as something like this, and so it's still able to make a bold enough statement as a top strip that I think this totally works. Okay, so one of the things that I like doing, because I know that when I get to this side, I'm going to have to trim this in, so it's going to be a blunt end, and this is naturally rounded in the way that a finished sticker would be rounded off on each end, right? But since I know I'm going to have a blunt end there, I'll slice this straight down the middle and give myself a blunt end on this side as well, because I want those to match up visually. I don't want one side to be blunt cut and the other to be rounded. Personal preference, but I think visually it's just a better look. And so I'm gonna go, oh God, that's so pretty. Oh, I love the lace. I love the lace. It's so pretty. Okay, so let's go ahead and just trim that. And I kind of want to do what I was saying before, where I make these florals a super focal point, and I definitely want them to lean over the bottom edge and come up to the top into that lace. God, I think that's really pretty. So I kind of want to set that down but not press it down. And to me, the biggest thing that I want to do is then pull in some very, very thin strip, long thin strip florals to sort of complement that, right? So again, I'm taking this long length type sticker and I want to trim from the longest point to the longest point for this, and I'm just gonna cut and slice right through there. And I always look at what I get after I slice through it, because when you slice a sticker in half, each half has a different flow and movement and is going to do something totally different on the page depending on which one you pick. And I think I want this one, but I might want the other one. I think I think I'm changing my mind. And I'm gonna pull this one over to the side. This one has a high point right about here, and I like that for sort of finishing off the end of this. So what I want is for that high point to sit right at the corner, and then it sort of builds and then tapers off as we head towards the center with that floral. And I feel like that's really, really nice. The other side I wasn't liking as much. I want another one that's small and thin shaped, but I want this super, super thin, because I want to put a really tiny floral here, and then I think a little bitty one down in the corner here. So what I'm going to do with this was I'm not going to cut from my longest point to my longest point. I'm actually, that would be sort of the center of the floral. I'm going to go just off center and really cut out a thin strip, just taking it right along the edge here. And oh gosh, yes, I really like that. That's giving me really, really thin, really, really subtle. And I think what I'm going to do for this one, I'm not even going to cut straight across. I'm going to cut this at a diagonal. I want another very, very thin slice of this floral, and I want it just to sit in the corner. I'm wondering if that was too thin. Yeah, no, I don't like that, and I don't like the angle. Let me try one more time. Trust me when I tell you, cutting florals is not a science, it's an art, and I don't always get it right on my first cut, and I end up cutting up quite a few florals. So don't feel like you have to be perfect. I have some really beautiful fall foliage type stickers, and I am trying to figure out what's going to give me the lines that I want, the visual movement that I want, and it's going to be a good supportive deco image. So I have my colorful florals going, and this has some strong potential. Oh, I like that. I really love the flow of those leaves and the movement of those visually. That has great potential. This is another one that just, again, nice long length, flowy, very, very elegant. This had a couple of things on it, but I only have one of those. So that's eliminated itself. So let's figure out what I want from these. Oh man, God, that's a tough choice. I feel like I kind of want this, and I just want to see sort of, oh God, it's so beautiful. If I did something like that, and see, I feel like for me, if I'm gonna do that going out that way, I kind of also want a little bit coming out the other way. But if I do that, I definitely need to move this over a bit. So let's back this up so it's just hitting the corner, just barely. And then I definitely want this a lot shorter than the length on this side. So I'm gonna go ahead and slice this little baby in half. It's gonna make it easier for me to tuck it underneath this floral, and I don't want it as long coming out on this side anyway. So, oh, but visually that is just so, so pretty. And then I think what I want to do is take some of these little individual florals, like the small little individual ones, and kind of tuck them underneath the florals, the colorful florals that I already have here. I'm going to splice just a bit of the bottom off of this. And whereas I definitely felt like the first technique I showed and first example was very much sort of what I would consider very beginner friendly, I feel like this is getting into a little bit more of our sort of layering techniques that go past, I would consider more intermediate to advanced. We're moving a little bit past beginner layering with this example here. And so I'm just dropping stickers on the page is what I just did actually. But let's go ahead and see if I can place that one the way that I want to. There we go. So I've got that floral tucked there, and now I'm going to pull in just some of these foiled cluster accents and just finish off what I've got going here. I love these. I think visually they're so dynamic because I placed this cluster here. So I had a 4-dot cluster on this side. So I had a 4-dot cluster on this side, and I have it off to the left of this floral. So for this one, I didn't want to put the dot cluster off to the left. I put it off to the right. So that way they're not too close together. They're not competing for your attention. And then also because I had the 4-dot here, I went with the 3-dot on that side. And honestly, it's not the end of the world if they're the same types of dots. It could have been another 4-dot. It would have been fine. And then I want to bring another dot cluster over to this side, create some visual balance since we've got clusters to the left, to the right, and then to the center. And now, God, I love that. Okay, before I press anything down, because I have the same situation, and I didn't think, even this time again, here we go again, where I did not think to tuck that underneath, underneath the colorful washi. So I'm going to pull out a thin stripped foil, and I want something very, very slim that is not going to take away from what's happening there visually, because there's something very dainty and elegant about this, and this washi strip would be too bold and too dramatic. We need something very, very subtle, very thin, sort of a clean, simple line that's not going to interrupt what's happening behind it. And I think those dots might be what I'm looking for. Let me pull out a couple of options for myself and just see what is going to work the best. I love the idea of those bows because they're so thin, and it's such a dainty line. I think it's going to work well. And then also, God, those butterflies might be a fun option. And it's so interesting because there isn't anything else competing with the concept of a butterfly being down here. Let me see if this is too much. I'm nervous that it might be too much and might distract from everything else that's happening. So I just want to lean those florals up, tuck that behind, and see. And I like the way it cuts through that line. Okay, let's see what that looks like. It feels a little too much, so I'm putting that back on the sticker sheet. And again, our biggest thing at this point, because we have our focal point, which for this one was our florals, so everything else that we pull into the page, we want it to be a supportive type of sticker, something that's not taking away or clashing with our main image that we already have on the page. And I think this might be it, because it's just going to give me this clean, simple line along with this bow, which one of our bows is going to be tucked under our florals, which is just fine. And then finishing off, and then I think also because we've got the lace here and it's so dainty and so girly, I think the bows were definitely the right choice. And now I can go ahead, press down my florals. I have made my decision. God, I love this. It's so pretty to me. And I just want to go in with my ruler, trim off my excess florals so that they're flush with the length of the bottom washi strip. And that is going to finish this off for us. Oh, wow, that was a lot of fun. Wait, no, we've got one more cut. And again, I want to keep this bottom line flush, and this particular cut is going to mesh our large focal point floral with the washi. And so again, by trimming off that bottom where it hangs over, it takes it from being a floral that's sitting on top of that colorful washi strip to sitting in it. And it just is so good. And I'm going to add just one more little cluster because I can't help myself. But I love the thought of like having a cluster inside one of my florals. Okay, and that was just a fun touch for me. Again, that was very much optional. So two different examples of the same technique, and just giving you options of what you can do if you wanted to create your own bottom washi. I hope that this was helpful and you all enjoyed this type of quick tips video. If you would like to see more of this type of content from me, let me know in the comments. I just completed doing this particular spread, and the way I did this sidebar is something that I would absolutely love to teach. So if you guys are interested in that, let me know and I'd be glad to go over and break down all of this layering. I definitely would not consider this beginner friendly. There's quite a bit of complex layering happening here, but I would love to break down something like this and share with you all of the reasons why I think this is so amazing and works, from the circles to the large florals to the line that's created with the word. Like there's just a lot of great stuff happening there. So as someone who is a supreme sticker junkie and loves stickers so much and could talk about them for hours, the joy of getting a chance to break that down and share that with you all would be my extreme pleasure. So thank you all for watching. I hope you're having an amazing day, and I will see you next video. Bye.